All right, top of the day, beautiful people, global purpose, eat my set apart, living mom, Tabitha, shalom, shalom, beautiful people. Happy Friday, y'all. When I write that, I wrote half the number. All right, beautiful people. Rita, shalom, say shalom, shalom. It is Friday, October the 28th, 2022, day 248 of year four, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. Another 4 year can say that they count. Day 1267. Today we're picking back up in Oahspe, the book of knowledge, which is also the appendix in here. And we're picking back up in chapter 7, which is on page 761. Father, we thank you, and you are worthy of every breath. All right, y'all. I feel like you got an eyelash in my eye. All right, so let's get started straight away so we can use all our time here today and not go over so much. All right, y'all. Nazarene, sing. Shalom. Kendra, shalom, shalom. And everybody else hanging out in the background. Top of the morning to you. All right, y'all. Chapter 7, page 761. And two heads of the beast stood in the east, and one stood in the midst, and one in the west. And the one that was oldest and standing in the east raised up his blood-stained hands, trembling in miserly rage, and with a book tattered and torn and smutted with the foulness of glutted avarice, swore an oath, saying, Down, down, Jehovah, unseen and godless, down. Know thou this ancient lore and the case of men? And rattling his hideous bones, even whilst with hissing breath he baited some to see the great awakening light. He baited some to see the great awakening light. But swift and terrible, the head of the beast that stood to the east and south snorted loud, and with both hands black with clotted human blood, lifted uplifted, cried out, Who art thou of the north and east that bellows out because thy tottering kingdom foresees its certain fall? Not only will I put Jehovah down, but thou too, miscreant, deceiver of men, know thou, O worthless Brahma, thy day is done. I, even I, great Buddha, will rule the world. None but I shall save mortal souls. Then, with flashing sword raised high and hungry for deeds of war, the head of the beast turned and shot forth his poisonous breath till all the world was foul. But ere he one stroke made, the head of the beast in the midst of the cloud, and more polluted than all the rest, and deep marked with lust, turned around to survey the scene, as if disturbed in amorous gluttony. And he shouted loud, hold, you dogs of ancient. Only by me, Muhammad, shall man ascend to heaven. Behold my deeds of blood. By myself am I sworn. I will feast on your rotten carcasses and banish Jehovah from the earth. He raised himself upward, unwashed, and his head smoked with the fumes of mortal blood. He shook the mighty cloud of the beast far and near. But now horror arose fresh, for the head of the beast that lies to the west stretched up his horns, and silently at first, always the most to fear, he felt around for his sword, and on the other heads of the beast. Let me start the whole sentence over. Verse 6, page 761. But now horror arose fresh, for the head of the beast that lies to the west stretched up his horns, and silently at first, always the most severe. He felt around for his sword, and on the other heads of the beasts contemplated as one that knoweth his own power. Then toward great Jehovah he looked approvingly, but full of well planned deceit. Without more ado, he spake to the other three heads of the beast, saying, think not I am come to send peace, but a sword. I come to set man at variance against his brother, and the daughter against her mother. Behold the millions I have slain. We all know who this is, right? Behold, the millions I have slain. Behold, how my mortals build torpedoes and ships of war. Behold, the long trail of human gore where my banner goes forth. Know ye too, I am the Savior of men. Even great Jehovah shall bow the knee when I command. I will send my legions forth to rap on tables and show the faces of the dead, and then proclaim through mortal tongues bolted loose, and thereon build my kingdom forever. You know, that's Christianity, right? Which is one of the heads of the beast, right? The heads of the beast is the four major religions, right? Okay. Brahma, Buddha, Mohammedanism, and Christianity. Those are the four heads of the beast. Tigva, hey girl, hey Elijah, shalom. Belinda Brown, hey auntie. Verse 8, page 761. And then the head of the, and remember we started yesterday as we was getting towards the end of the reading, it started talking about this beast. So because we cut it off, it might seem like, okay, beast, I remember beast, but it was like the last few scriptures where it started, where this beast began to come on the scene. And this is just continuing on with what had started yesterday. Verse 8, page 761. And then the head of the beast stood triumphant in the west, stripped of his bloody sleeves, and with one hand held high a banner whereon was written, I am the Lamb of Peace. And with the other swung high his mighty sword like a whirlwind. It swung abroad over all the black clouds. Women of wealth and fashion cast aside their earthly goods and went and labored with the poor, teaching cleanliness and wisdom and uprightness of heart. And those that preached were the spirits of the dead who were ripe in experience in Jehovah's unseen worlds. But the beast with his countless millions was cast out from the earth as a long black cloud, riven and broken, floating, floating, floating. It passed away and was seen no more. Nor was there any nor was there more any false god known upon the earth. But Jehovah rose supreme in every land, and all people under the sun sang anthems of glory to his name. The voice of Jehovah came upon us, saying, of the past these things shalt thou comprehend, O Tay. The beast walketh forth on the earth in every guise, and in the second sphere of atmosphere he became a living person, born out of the sins of men. For one man worshipped science, and it was his beast. One worshipped riches, and it was his beast. One fashion, and it was her beast. Another lust, and it was his. Another worshiping nothing, and it was his beast. Now all these and such as of like order continued to do the same things after death, for that which they had builded up on earth became as a living entity within them, and they could not put it away. This was the first resurrection, being the birth of unclean man into the spirit world. So yesterday it gave a bunch of examples. I'm trying to see whether, okay, the rich man to the captain, all men, for more to be conscious of his. Okay, let me highlight these. Okay. Okay, so first, like it would say, well, I would Well, shucks, start the whole chapter over. I wish we would have read these two chapters together. And I'm just saving my place right here. I just went back to look at something. So in chapter 6, also, before it led up to this huge beast, right? It started giving you the different caste of men, or the different types of men and women on the earth, right? And the different positions that they hold or that they put themselves in, and how it begins to develop in them, right? Verse 10 says, for a mortal to be conscious of his own spirit, it must transcend his corporal senses. He who knoweth not his own spirit is weak indeed. Such a man born into the spirit world is as a newborn child, knowing nothing. And then it goes on to describe these different types, right? And 10 goes directly with 13 in the next chapter. This was the first resurrection, being the birth of unclean man into the spirit world. And verses like 13 for chapter 6 on page 759, verses 13, where it starts with the captain and general who were slayers of men. Death is a doorway to them, whence spring up them ghastly wounds and frenzied maniacs crying out for vengeance. And then it goes on to the leader of men, and how they enter the S world to meet an army of misled confidants, and his tricks and falsehoods are as a garment soiled and spotted to hide a blackened heart. Then it goes into the rich man entereth the S world at the door of his bank. In the bank he teareth all day long. Remember, it goes on to that story, like he dead, still walking around his bank worrying about his money, right? And then it goes, let's see, and lo, the spirit of him who is dead, still talking about the banker. Hold on, I meant to say something about this yesterday. Um, you know how people create altars and they pour out drinks for the dead or whatever. And I used to think, and then sometime I don't know, I'm still kind of looking into it. Like they'll leave a drink offering, especially like alcohol, and they'll leave it on their altar, and then it'll like dry up. But I was like, well, I'm wondering if it was just during the course of time that it dried up, right? So if it's the course of time, maybe quite a few days, especially if you don't pour out a lot. If you pour like a little bit in like a little drink offering bowl or whatever, it'll tend to dry up because it's alcohol and it evaporates, right? And some people are like, oh my God, the spirit's drunk it. I'm like, bruh, it evaporated. How long has it been sitting up here? Y'all dumb. Until it dries up overnight. Now that I would say it's not normal, especially if it was more than like a couple drops and you ain't got the fan blowing, the windows open to help it evaporate a lot faster, right? And those things, I'm like, okay, something happening. Either somebody walking past this altar, getting a little sip here, a little sip there, or if you like the only one in the house and this is happening, I would say there's some real supernatural goings on happening in your house if you're telling us the truth, right? You know, but just looking at all of that, but lo, the spirit of him who is dead sucketh out the spirit of the wine and leaveth him distracted still. Right. So this is still under like the rich man. Um, and it goes down a little bit further. Oh no, I'm sorry. Nope, I'm sorry. The banker, the rich man, was before that, and this is the person who drank wine, right? But then it goes into another dark chamber, openeth, a dealer in wine is dead. And it begins to talk about his wife, and after he dies, and he's there to see all that happens. But then he's also there to see, even though he's dead, his spirit still lingers around the home, watching what happens to his children and his wife, right? And then it goes into the a stately mansion of a woman of high caste, right? And all her glories and how beautiful she is, and but she had no kids, and that's when it got into when she enters the S world, when she dies, and all those abortions that she had, all those babies are waiting right there for her, crying out, "Why did you murder us, oh mother?" Right? And it goes into more scenes of horror. Open and ooze the door of man of corporal learning, right? Those who are like we'll call them lifetime students. Not that you shouldn't be a lifetime student, but you have certain type of students that get, how can I describe them? They seem to get stuck, right? Let me read this. From the scene of horrors, now open oozed the door of the man of corporal learning. His spirit wandered in libraries and ancient tombs and hieroglyphs and sighs over problems never solved. Day by day, night by night, he restlessly peereth into the same paths and over borroweth deep in darkness. Stripling youths and fairies pull his wig or upturn his spectacles, saying, O fool, knoweth not thou art dead? Turn from these corporal tombs and behold great Jehovah's light. In sorrow and pity he regarded them, saying, I am not dead. When I am dead, there is an end. But I am sick, still dwelling in my corporal body. And then he wandereth on, a living sepulchre. Then it goes into the farmer, right? And then it goes into the person who gluts themselves, gourmandizers, right? Hanging out in saloons and slaughterhouses where people are getting drunk and overeating and all of that stuff. And his spirit lingers around there. And then it starts talking about the confusion in heaven. He that forever argued is dead, right? So it just goes through all these examples for chapter 6. And then it begins to talk about this beast. And chapter 7 gets into the beast developing and who it is and the religion and all those things, right? Which leads us back up here to where we were at in chapter 7 and verse 13. And now go back up to verse 11 and start again on page 761. The voice of Jehovah came upon us, saying, Of the past, these things shalt thou comprehend, O Tay. The beast walketh forth on the earth in every guise, and in the second sphere of atmosphere he became a living person, born out of the sins of men. For one man worshiped science, and it was his beast. One worshiped riches, and it was his beast. One fashion, and it was her beast. Another lust, and it was his. Another worshiping nothing, and it was his beast. Now all these and such as of like order continued to do the same things after death, for that which they had builded up on earth became as a living entity within them, and they could not put it away. Hence all those examples from chapter 6, right? And they could not put it away. This was the first resurrection, being the birth of unclean man into the spirit world. In the second sphere of atmosphere, which is the second resurrection, the condition was like unto the first, but organic. Page 762. We all the way at the top now. Verse 15. Vinette. Brian Jogi Shalom. Key Shalom. Shalom. Audrey Hasis. Nini Shalom. For one, people worship Brahma, making a beast of him. Another worship Buddha, making a beast of him. Another worship Christ, making a beast of him. Another Jesus, making a beast of him, and forever paraded his crucifixion. Got the crosses around your neck, on chains, getting it tattooed on your body, forever parading his crucifixion. And the beast that each one builded up within his soul became an entity to him on his entrance into spirit life, and he became bound to the machinations of evil spirits professing to be that beast. And these evil spirits became as gods, in fact, building kingdoms in the lower heavens and making subjects and slaves of their worshippers, compelling them to contribute of their earnings and labor in spirit, even as mortal kings exact tribute on earth. Thousands and millions and tens of millions of subjects and slaves they had, and their cities were even as represented to mortals, paved with comparative pearls and diamonds. These things thou hast witnessed, that the spirits of the first birth discourse on the things of the earth, and of marriage and begetting, not having risen even to the second resurrection. Their hope and belief in heaven is to re enter wombs and be born again, teaching reincarnation and ministering to the proclivities of lust and mortals, inspiring visions of sexual desires and practices in heaven. For all such spirits have not risen up from the earth, and know no other abode but to revel and glut themselves in corporeal debauchery. And many of them boastingly and in darkness teach falsely that spirits in heaven beget sons and daughters, and even that sons and daughters reincarnate themselves in mortal flesh, becoming children of the earth. All such spirits shalt thou know by such teachings. For whatsoever seemeth the highest delight of a man on earth, or a spirit in S, that will he exalt in and proclaim. And this sign hast thou witnessed of them in the second resurrection. They proclaim the beast they have made, whether it be an idol of Jesus or Christ, or Buddha or Muhammad or Brahma, and forever harp on him, knowing nothing higher. And he standeth as a figure of the beast, whereupon they hang their hopes of endless bliss. The rapture, constantly casting down the thrones before the feet of him who sits upon it, sitting up there in heavenly bliss. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come, all day long doing nothing but that. That sounds logical from the Christian standpoint based on what they teach you. But as you grow up a little bit, it's like, wait, it's all day long. Like, we're going to be done just sitting constantly. Just that. Like, we never gonna get tired. Like, we don't have feelings up there like, shoot, I'm tired. How long we got to keep doing this? Holy, holy, holy. Like, real, like, this all we're gonna do for the rest of our spirit life. This holy, holy, holy is the Lord. I mean, anybody else asked the question. Holy, holy. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, when you supposed to holy? I'm just like, when you really start thinking about this, not that Creator isn't holy. He absolutely is, and everything about him. Matter of fact, my most affectionate name and adoration for him is the most holy. But some of these things we just don't seem to think about, and we just don't try to use good common sense with some of these things, right? I do cry, holy, 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 but I'm moving and I'm growing in the process. Father, you know what? This is why you is the most holiest. Oh my gosh, thank you for that, right? But there's a process of development that's happening with me that causes my spirit to cry out, holy, holy, holy. Not because it's what we're supposed to be doing all day. Why? Who signed me up for this, right? There's a difference from me getting downloads and being taught, oh my gosh, my spirit just cries holy, just because you're constantly developing me. And like, there is nothing else. It's like, I mean, I get that, but we got to keep it in its proper context, right? Not just, oh, this is, you made, no, my spirit, by growth and development and seeing who the Creator is with all that he put inside of me and around me, there is nothing that I can utter but holy. But I'm doing something in the process. I'm growing and I'm developing, right? Just something to ponder on. Listen, page 762. Let me go back to, let me go back to 21. This sign hath the Father given, that in, hold on. Did I read this already? Let me go to 17. Because I got it. I think I just did this. Yeah, I think let me just go back to 17. Okay. All such spirits shalt thou know by such teachings, for whatsoever seemeth the highest delight of a man on earth, or a spirit in S, that will he exalt in and proclaim. And this sign hast thou witness of them in the second resurrection. They proclaim the beast they have made, whether it be an idol of Jesus or Christ, or Buddha or Muhammad, or Brahma, and forever harp on him, knowing nothing higher, and he standeth as a figure of the beast, whereupon they hang their hopes of endless bliss. By their preaching hast thou evidence of their places in heaven. Whosoever practiceth in them receiveth his inspiration from the selves of the beast he proclaimeth. Yet the second is higher than the first, for the first is isolated, and the spirit or mortal belonging to the first preaches and practices on his own account, being wholly for self. This sign hath the Father given, that in marriage man and woman becometh the first testimony before mortals, that can be abnegated without loss of self, experiencing a loss in fact. And this is the smallest possible number that can unite on earth or in heaven. Let the single man or the single woman stand, therefore, as a type of the lowest of the heavens, first resurrection, and let marriages stand as a type of the second resurrection. For those of the first are as individuals, but those of the second are as the beginning of association and the committing of one's self to the combination of many. Let me read that again. I definitely didn't go that far, but I had marked it for some reason. I think I was just talking and marking the what you call it because I just kind of looked ahead, not realizing I like forgot what I did just that quick. I was like, I know I didn't read that out loud yet. Okay, let's go back. Oh yeah, Tickle said I wasn't laughing at that comment. I was laughing at what he said about the cast and throwing down the crowns and keep picking it back up. I would think so at Ema. Number one, Jesus is the Savior and Christ is Lou among playing God for Constantine. I think that's right? Because it mentions Jesus and Christ. Remember, they talked about it, Christ being Lou among in earlier chapters. I forget exactly where that was at, but it's in here. We already read it, right? They gave the differentiation between the two. Okay. Verse 21, page 762. This sign hath the Father given, that in marriage man and woman becometh the first testimony before mortals, that self can be abnegated without loss of self, experiencing a loss in fact. And this is the smallest possible number that can unite on earth or in heaven. Let the single man or the single woman stand, therefore, as a type of the lowest heavens, first resurrection, and let marriage stand as a type of the second resurrection. For those of the first are as individuals, but those of the second are as the beginning of association and the committing of one's self to the combination of many. S said, a sign of the third resurrection hath Jehovah given to men, whereby they shall be known, which is, that self shall not be manifest, save in the union of many. For as the first resurrection may have marriage between two persons who become as one, so do they of the third resurrection become brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, manifesting in families of tens and twenties and hundreds and thousands, who are also as one. Nor have they any other king or chief ruler or God or Lord or Christ. That's good. I'm gonna read that again. And I thought about our guardian angels, and one of the, I guess one of maybe prerequisite is wrong, the wrong word, but one of the things that the guardian angels cannot do while being our guardian angels or helping us is to show themselves to us, right? They're like on this higher level. They're acting in this, they're, how can I say this? They could care less about showing themselves to you to make you believe. Their whole purpose of not just being your guardian angel is to give you inspiration to climb up higher, to be able to attune yourself to the spiritual realm, right? Which is why they shouldn't show themselves. You know, somebody would show, I don't believe you there. Show yourself, like a hand or something right on the wall, just like King Nebuchadnezzar's son saw on the wall. Show something to make me believe, right? You ain't ready, you know, because as you develop and as you begin to grow and your spirit begins to connect with the Father, these things you will just begin to perceive, and you will know by inner knowing that these things are real, right? And you can test things, and that's when your prayers start becoming a little bit more effective, and you can get immediate answers because you got on the right frequency, right? Listen, that's what this just made me think about a sign of the third resurrection. Let me read it again, verse 22, page 762. S said, S representing the spiritual realm. S said, a sign of the third resurrection hath Jehovah given to men, whereby they shall be known, which is that self shall not be manifest, save in the union of many. For as the first resurrection may have marriage between two persons who become as one, so do they of the third resurrection become brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, manifesting in families of tens and twenties and hundreds and thousands who are also as one. Nor have they any other king or chief ruler or God or Lord or Christ. Wherefore, if a man say, I have no faith in these things because they are impractical, ye may know he belongeth to one of the first two resurrections and not to the third. Right? Kind of like my little example I just gave. As said, nevertheless, it hath been proven in Israel that these things were for 400 years, beginning of Ark of Bond, previous cycle, and these people attained to 6 millions of souls. Whoever then said, this day is void of righteousness, like the ancients, is speaking from the first or second resurrection, denying the progress of man and accusing Jehovah. Judge not Jehovah's chosen by the standard of the worshippers of the beast. Neither shall any man accuse Jehovah, because man has set up natural law, putting Jehovah afar off, or because he hath set up Brahma or Buddha or Christ, putting Jehovah afar off. For all these idols were necessary to those who love the figure of a beast. Whew. Let me read this again. Verse 24. S said, nevertheless, now let me just go back up 22, right? S said, a sign of the third resurrection hath Jehovah given to men, whereby they shall be known, which is that self shall not be manifest, save in the union of many. For as the first resurrection may have marriage between two persons who become as one, so do they of the third resurrection become brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, manifesting in families of tens and twenties and hundreds and thousands who are also as one. Nor have they any other king or chief ruler or God or Lord or Christ. Wherefore, if a man say, I have no faith in these things because they are impractical, ye may know he belongeth to one of the first two resurrections and not to the third. As said, nevertheless, it hath been proven in Israel that these things were for 400 years, beginning of Ark of Bond, previous cycle, and these people attained to 6 millions of souls. Whoever then saith, this day is void of righteousness like the ancients, is speaking from the first or second resurrection, denying the progress of man and accusing Jehovah. Judge not Jehovah's chosen by the standard of the worshippers of the beast. Judge not Jehovah's chosen by the standard of the worshippers of the beast. Neither shall any man accuse Jehovah, because man has set up natural law, putting Jehovah afar off, or because he hath set up Brahma or Buddha or Christ, putting Jehovah afar off. For all these idols were necessary to those who love the figure of a beast. Those who have not attained to the third resurrection, that is, Jehovah's presence, must have first a mortal king or ruler, second, the sword, militia, police, and third, the prison. For all of these were given to those who are begotten in sin and dwell in the beast. Neither can he who preacheth any of the idols practice that which he preaches. They are but as news vendors proclaiming what Buddha did, or Christ did, or what is done by natural law or divine law. Their mission is to preach and not to practice, for the practice of righteousness is not possible to them. Ooh, this would hit some preachers deep down in their shanana, missionaries, and everybody else just going preaching a thing, talking about what has been done. He called them news vendors. Channel 12 News for the church. That's what they should name the churches. Channel 12 News. This is the hub. And they gossip like none other, right? Boy, news past the fastest inside the church house. I'm gonna leave them alone. I used to be inside of there. Verse 27. Verse 26. Those who have not attained to the third resurrection, that is, Jehovah's presence, must have first a mortal king or ruler, second, the sword, militia, police, and the third, the prison. For all of these were given to those who are begotten in sin, and dwell in the beast. Neither can he who preacheth any of the idols practice that which he preacheth. They are as but news vendors proclaiming what Buddha did or Christ did or what is done by natural law or divine law. Their mission is to preach and not to practice, for the practice of righteousness is not possible to them. If a man come to thee and say, behold, I am inspired by the angels of the third resurrection, see to it and prove him. For if he be true, he is a practicer of Jehovah's kingdom, not in preaching, but in works. Tabitha, Grand Rising. Grand Rising, Uncle JB. But if he strive for himself in all things, then is he inspired of the first resurrection. And yet, if he be a proclaimer for one of the idols, then is he of the second resurrection, asserting law and even violence. I know a few of these people, right? And they can get quite violent when it comes to their idol. Or especially, it don't matter who it is, but especially the one I'm most familiar with is the idol Jesus, right? The one that they made into an idol, that one, they get real violent and nasty nice about it. We're going to war for the kingdom of the Lord. Dressing up in army fatigues and all this stuff. And anyway, after asserting law and even violence is reference letter D, which is the last reference letter for this book. Go to the next page, 764. And D says, there is a degree of ambiguity in the text of Oahspe in reference to the terms second resurrection and third resurrection. To clarify, this verse is a reference to times past, as the book of knowledge had been a part of the book of being. While it is generally understood that the first resurrection consists of the disorganized atmosphere heavens, the second resurrection heavens have been redefined over time. In the past, the second resurrection included all those who entered into organic associations where angels labor in concert for a common purpose, whether they were in heaven in concert with the true God of earth, or heavens maintaining their allegiance to any given prophet, savior, or false gods. The acceptance of an all person was not an initial requirement. It was from those second resurrection heavens that most false gods appeared. When the arrival of Cosmon, however, the policy and definition became narrower. At present, only those organic associations that embrace an all person are considered second resurrection. All other organic associations lacking such an acceptance are now considered only first resurrection. This is the reason for the apparent contradistinction between the verses in the book of Divinity, chapter 5, verses 10 through 11, and the book of Judgment, chapter 2, verse 26. The former refers to the past, and the latter to the present. Third resurrection refers to two heavenly states. This term not only refers to the ethereal heavens that travel independently of the earth, but also those atmospheric heavens that both embrace the concept of an all person and consist of those angels who have already advanced enough to qualify for entrance into the ethereal heavens. Such angels are only waiting for the time of the next day when that transition will be made available to them. Okay, go back. Verse 30, page 762. And yet, if he be a proclaimer for one of the idols, then is he of the second resurrection, asserting law and even violence. As one man alone cannot practice war, neither can one man alone practice the third resurrection. One man alone may give away all he hath, laboring for others all of his days, abjuring self before the world, yet he cannot thus be in the third resurrection, because he has not attained to the Father's kingdom, which is organic and composed of a number of individuals, meaning you can't come by yourself. That's why you can't attain to it. You're still just looking out for yourself. This is a group effort, right? Family resides here. Everybody comes along here. So go get some brethren and sisterin, and then you come back. Right? Because he hath not attained to the Father's kingdom, which is organic and composed of a number of individuals. Try them, therefore, before Jehovah, whether for sake of him they will become one with an army of brethren for righteousness. For such is the kingdom, and of it Jehovah is king. All such will abjure war and violence and contribute all they produce to the Father's kingdom, reserving nothing. This becometh power by virtue of righteousness and peace. These are ministered to by the spirits of the third resurrection, who have no Buddha or Christ, but Jehovah only. The proof of these things shall be manifest before all peoples. The Buddhist, the Brahmin, or Mohammedan, or Christian will not accept a brotherhood, peace on earth, either on earth or in heaven, because forsooth he has his own idol. Neither will he abjure war, but declare it a necessary evil, even in the same breath he professeth peace. The charity he doeth is likewise vain and of little effect. It is like lifting water with a sieve. He buildeth asylums and houses for the poor, and places to feed the hungry, and in his places of worship raiseth money and provisions and raiment. But lo and behold, the numbers who come to want increase on his hand, right? Because we ain't doing this for nobody else but for Jesus, or for whoever idol you didn't set up. That's the only reason why they do it. Anything else is no, it's blasphemy. Only for him, only to thee do I serve. Jesus, my idol, right? I'm like, well, first of all, isn't he a creation of the creator? How are you worshiping the creation of a creator? That doesn't make sense to me. Okay. Verse 30, so I'm going to go back up. Try them, therefore, before Jehovah, whether for sake of him they will become one with an army of brethren for righteousness. For such is the kingdom, and of it Jehovah is king. All such will abjure war and violence and contribute all they produce to the Father's kingdom, reserving nothing. This becometh power by virtue of righteousness and peace. These are ministered to by the spirits of the third resurrection, who have no Buddha or Christ, but Jehovah only. The proof of these things shall be manifested before all peoples. The Buddhist, the Brahmin, or Mohammedan, or Christian will not accept a brotherhood, peace on earth, either on earth or in heaven, because forsooth he has his own idol, right? Meaning they won't even come together. The Brahmins, the Buddhists, the Mohammedans, and Christians dwelling together in one brotherhood, right? Those who are I mean, it's already here. Those, the ones who are trying to create a one real religion, are trying to do more to unite people than their own religions themselves. No, Buddhists. What are you talking about? We Christians over here, my G. No, no, we kill the haters of our idol. That's what they should say. They should stop calling him Jesus. They should just start saying our idol. For him we live, for him we die, and to him we bow our knee and we confess that he, our idol, is Lord. I'm just saying, if you use them terms, some of them might wake up like, wait a minute, what did we just say out of our own mouths? That just hit me in that something sounds a little bit off about what we're proclaiming. And why can't they be our brother? Because they're, well, yeah, they do kind of blow up people. Okay, then all these stereotypes and all this stuff start coming up on why they can't mingle amongst one another, why they have to stay separated, each of their own corner of the earth. Yes,
don't
babe.
tell me Zay you wanted that.
No, he didn't even come down here yet, babe.
I can undo.
Yes, you can too, baby. Listen. Not trying to get off track, but if the original angels who laid with man and saw their nakedness, which allowed us to inherit the kingdoms of the ethereal worlds, would man not have been able to inherit if that had not happened? And how things worked on other worlds? Hope that makes sense. Tabitha said that makes sense. Let me read it again. Oh, okay, I get it. It does make sense, right? It goes into that, right? It goes into that. Now those angels who had laid with men, now they were responsible for man to and to help raise them up, to teach them about the ethereal worlds, right? Because they mingled the flesh with the fully spirit, and now you got a hybrid, a person that's half flesh and half spirit. Now you can't leave these children out here like this. Go teach them. They're of us now, right? That's what happened. That makes a lot of sense. Tickle. Listen. Hold on. Verse 33. Where you at? 48 minutes. Verse 33, page 763. The proof of these things shall be manifest before all peoples. The Buddhist or Brahmin or Mohammedan or Christian will not accept a brotherhood, peace on earth, either on earth or in heaven, because forsooth he has his own idol. Neither will he abjure war, but declare it a necessary evil. Even in the same breath he professeth peace. The charity he doeth is likewise vain and of little effect. It is like lifting water with a sieve. He buildeth asylums and houses for the poor, and places to feed the hungry, and in his places of worship raiseth money and provisions and raiment. But lo and behold, the numbers who come to want increase on his hands, right? Because they keep on doing this for the poor. And they're not actually raising them up. They just keep giving to them to fill all their needs, right? But they're doing nothing for the spirit of this man or this woman, causing them to be more of what they already are, right? That's why it just keeps increasing. And worse yet than these are such as belong to the first resurrection. They worship nothing and are without moral power before the world. Their charities are nothing. Education, nothing. And as for ideas of virtue, it is everyone for himself. Last chapter of this book, y'all. Chapter 8 or chapter VIII, page 763. Again, Jehovah spake through S, saying, the first resurrection in heaven have I made to inspire the first resurrection on earth. The second resurrection in heaven have I made to inspire the second resurrection on earth. The third resurrection in heaven have I made to inspire the third resurrection on earth. Like to like made I them. S said, what is funny to me is now I'm reading more of this like of like. And I was saying this a few days ago, like as I was reading through, it was just like coming to me. I hadn't read ahead down here, not realizing it was using like, what is that? Like to like made I them. I was saying light and light and like, right? But this is blowing my mind. Like to like made I them. S said, consider then if a man on the earth strive for riches or power or self in any manner, whence he draweth his inspiration, and determine thou also by this what will be his rank in his birth into the S world. If a man be a preacher and not a practitioner, doing not the thing he knoweth to be the highest, thou shalt determine what will be his spirit birth. Like the book of James talks about this, right? Those who know to do good but do it not, to him it is sin. You a preacher but are not a practicer, right? And if a man be a preacher and not a practitioner, doing not the thing he knoweth to be the highest, thou shalt determine what will be his spirit birth. On the other hand, he that liveth to the full, the highest of all he knoweth, by his own strength, producing for others all he can, thou shalt determine his place also. These resurrections are possible, either on the earth or in heaven, but there are many so immersed in the earth that only by death and by suffering Hades can they be aroused to strive for a higher light. Now it would be said to thee, such a man hath lived a good and exemplary life, given to the poor, being temperate and respectable before the world. What will be his place in heaven? Answer thou him, O Tay, saying, he that serveth himself goeth to the lowest of bound heavens. He who serveth Jehovah with all his wisdom and strength goeth to the third realm. But only he who serveth betwixt these two goeth to the second lowest of the bound realms. Shall a man deceive Jehovah, saying, I did the best I knew, when he knoweth he did not? You fooled everybody else with that crap. But you stand before our maker and say that. Oh, you did, huh? Well, I could have. Okay, so well, maybe I didn't give all, because I could have did, right. The truth begins to come out when you stand in the presence of truth, right? You ain't gonna stand there and just be rattling off a bunch of lies thinking you gonna fool the creator, right? Creation fooling its creator. The audacity. What audacity. Verse 8, answer thou him, O Tay, saying, he that serveth himself goeth to the lowest of bound heavens. He who serveth Jehovah with all his wisdom and strength goeth to the third realm. But only he who serveth betwixt these two goeth to the second lowest of the bound realms. Shall a man deceive Jehovah, saying, I did the best I knew, when he knoweth he did not? Be thou wise and discerning Jehovah in all things, and seeing and judging as he would judge. For there are deceivers in heaven, and to him who would shelter his own deceit, these spirits come by the thousands. Oh, my goodness. But he of the third resurrection escapeth them. Let me just for good measure, let me just reread this verse. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to highlight it for me, just in case y'all want me to read it again. Listen. Be thou wise in discerning Jehovah in all things, and seeing and judging as he would judge. For there are deceivers in heaven, and to him who would shelter his own deceit, these spirits come by the thousands, but he of the third resurrection escapeth them. And now, touching the prophecy of a nation, weigh thou the people and determine what resurrection they are already in, and the number of each division. Then determine the generation antecedent and the one again antecedent to that, making tablets thereof. They that are heavily laden and dwell in him, they are the type of my Ethereal worlds. Forswear yourselves away from the world. She worshipeth the beast. The cloud of the second resurrection is upon her. Wash your hands and be clean. My host from the most high heavens will wait at your doors. It is amazing to me, right? When we depart this life, when we are where we supposed to be, we ain't gotta be like, oh my gosh, I hope they come pick me up. If you have to utter out your mouth when you were born in the spirit, where's they at? You already late, shipmate. Because they, when you leave, they would, if they was coming to pick you up, they would have been waiting there. Like when you opened your eyes in the spirit, they are already there. Would you, right, Shebrew? Oops. You better start thinking about your life when you had your flesh. That's a good question, Tikva. What, one more question off track. What happens to the fathers of these aborted babies? That is a good question. If I would use my understanding of what I currently know based on the scriptures in here that I remember about the babies and even the environment before the baby is even born with the father and the mother, I think there is never a time where they are. I'm thinking about some of these verses while I'm running them through my head. Based on my best guess of my highest light, based of all that I've read and hear so far in my experience, I would say that they are held accountable as well, but maybe not to the extent of actually aborting a child, because there are some women who abort the babies and men are absolutely against it. I seen one video, um Sissy in chapter 6 had all them babies waiting on her, but they need to get the pappy too. But listen, here's something I saw. I think the father, don't quote me on this, but I would think that if they were doing all they could to prevent the aborting of their child, that I I would think justice in my head, based on all that I know, I would think they wouldn't be held accountable like the woman is, right? But I think they would still be held accountable because it was their choice to give over their seed to this woman anyway. They should have had the foresight to know this is not where you want to plant your seed, right? So I think they'll be held accountable in a way, just like the mothers will be held accountable if they aborted the child, even at, if the father's saying don't do this. I seen a video on YouTube a few years back where a woman was going to abort the baby. She's probably like maybe like 2 months. And she was, I guess she just had it up to here with the baby's father, the boyfriend or whatever. But apparently, I don't know. The dude was in tears. He was outside of the abortion clinic, like banging on the door, like, please don't let her kill my baby. It was hard to watch that video. It was really hard. That a couple of the nurses came out and they was trying to comfort him, because like they had never seen anything like that. And it was like, well, there's nothing we can do. Literally, according to law, it's her body, it's her choice. And he was like, forget all of that. What about morals? This is a child, please don't. I mean, it's they will be held. I don't know, y'all. The women definitely gonna be held accountable for that, like, because that's like outright, but there are different cases where things happen, right? But I still think there is an accountability for the man, because you shouldn't just be out there spreading your seed everywhere, right? Like I said, men should have, and a lot of times they don't really think with this head, and sometimes even this head get the other head in trouble when they really should be operating out of their spirit. Had they been operating out of their spirit, they would have never given this woman the opportunity to carry their seed, right? And nobody would be in this predicament, right? So both are held accountable. From my highest light and my understanding of things, that's just what I believe. I don't think anybody gets off. From us, we would think that it's all the woman's fault, but from a higher light, looking from the top down, the carrier of the seed determine where you're going to plant the seed. Like, you control that, right? Though, not that the woman is any less responsible, but the sower of the seed determines where he would like his harvest to be harvested at what we want to see, right? Am I wrong? But yeah, it was really really sad, right? It was really hard to watch because I had never seen. That was like my first time, and I understand men love their children, and some seem like they love them more than the mothers do. But I had never seen something like that where the man is actually crying because most women like, I don't care, make my life easier. I'm just like, what? I'm constantly shocked anew every day by some of this stuff. What if they were married and she did it behind his back? I still want to say the same thing. Men should know who they are marrying. And if that's just me, like seriously. And I tend to try to look at it from the father's perspective and how the father would look at it. You're like, well, okay, well, you weren't even listening to me in the first place when I told you it ain't time for you to get married, or she need to develop a little bit more, or he needs to develop a little bit more. And we all get those warnings. And we just try to call these red flags blue. No, that was a blue. What are you talking about? Red flag? It was blue. Oh, it was green, meaning giving me to go ahead. You having dreams and everything. And it's like when stuff like this happens, it's like, oh, well, what happened? Well, we could foresee that something happened because you were hard headed way back here down the road. Let's not forget about this because every choice back here led us up to this moment.
Mommy, what is this?
It's a scratch pad, Tootie.
But
it's a cleaner pan, Pooh. Those are just my thoughts. But I'm sure there are cases, though. There are cases where women change and just like completely throws the husband or the wife off, right? None of us can. All of us are shocked sometime at the behavior of our partners. Like, how could we have like not seen that? But if we want to be honest about things, right? If we're not so caught up in our, and this is just from my personal experience, just being married, right? Because sometimes I'll be a little transparent here. Sometimes it's like, oh, why he acting like that? And it's like, oh, you doing the most. I'm just kind of sum stuff up without, putting too much of my business out in the street, right? Some things should be like not discussed with the whole world, but just giving you an example. But as I sit back and think about some of these things, there were some things that I did or didn't do in the beginning because I was completely worried about myself, not thinking about us as a whole, which led to some of these decisions that some spouses feel like they were pushed into a corner to make. And then they blame you for it, and vice versa. But if we sit there and we be honest about it and we really think about this every step of the way, let's get rid of the amnesia. Let's really go back to the root cause of all this stuff because there's always a root cause. And a lot of times, if you've been together for a while, even before you got married, some of these issues probably stem from the time before we said I do, right? We never solved these issues back then. And a lot of times people think, oh, when we get married, things are changing. That absolutely doesn't happen. It makes the weight of things a whole lot worse. And now you're walking around, there's 14 elephants in your house, and you can't even fit in your own house for all the problems and the elephants that's taking up all the space. We don't ever talk about it. We gloss over things, right? We don't listen to the Father. If we have any kind of spiritual hearing or insight, intuition, whatever, there's, even though we may not know the full details from what my own personal experience, even if we don't know the full details, there's always a warning. Uh, uh, from my experience, there's always a warning, and a lot of times those warnings we ignore, right? We just brush it off, but we know them when we get them, men and women. We really do. Can't nobody sit here and lie to me and tell me that you just completely missed it. And if you did completely miss it, it's because you were so wrapped up in yourself or whatever it is, not paying attention or not watching the thermometer of your own home. And can't nobody lie about that. Like, say if you've been married, nobody can lie about that. From the outside looking in, well, cut them a little slack. When you get married, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just like standing before the Father. Well, I did everything. Did you really do everything? Okay, so maybe this one time I could, yeah. So now it's okay. Let's talk about that. That's what we've been trying to get to all this time before we even got here, right? So I do think the men and women are held responsible just at certain points, because had the man had been more mindful, even getting married, like if you haven't, okay, so say you got married, everything was good. Things could have changed, even though like everybody has to be paying attention. They can't be afraid to talk to one another, because what if something did change? They got married and the woman wasn't like this. But in the course of the marriage, things happened which caused bitterness and resentment, or maybe somebody was abusing somebody mentally, physically, emotionally, which caused bitterness and resentment. I don't want to have your child. I'm sick of going through like all of these things. There are so many different variables when it comes to this, but I don't think one is more responsible than the other. It's just we see there is, what's the word? It's I see it in my head. It's like, okay, so the woman actually committing the act of abortion is just it's the physical manifestation of what was happening in the unseen realms, right? We saw this, oh my gosh, that is terrible, right? Because we saw the effects of what was already going on inside, right? And the same thing with the man, like this was your the children, listen, children belong to the men. The men carry the children, right? From the day they are born into the world, they're the ones born with the seeds in them. Like women take, and this is just my thoughts, my understanding. Some people may disagree. Okay. But listen what I'm saying. For a woman to take something that belongs to a man, granted, and you come together, like don't miss what I'm saying, y'all, right? You should be working together, right? Because he couldn't bring life to his seed if it wasn't for the woman, and the woman can't give birth to something unless she has the seed, right? So they're both are partners. They both, it ain't gonna happen without the both of you. We come together making this agreement, even if we don't even think about having the children. We do the act that creates and births babies, right? We're both responsible, because if a man, y'all get it, right? We're both responsible. So whether the woman aborts the baby, I think the man is still responsible, because here's the key. If we are connected to the Father, He forewarns us about things. But if you're dull and you can't hear, it seems like, oh my gosh, what has happened? How did we get here? Well, we got here because somebody wasn't listening, somebody wasn't paying attention, right? And when we get married, we understand from the spiritual realm, we get extra guardian angels to help us in the marriage, right? So you don't just have the guardian angels you get when you were born. When you get married, you are assigned on top of the guardian angels, right? So you get double the inspiration. You get a new set that's designed to give you inspiration specifically about your marriage and how to grow in this process, and how to become one, right? Yeah, we both can't be hard-headed. And most of the time, somebody gonna be more hard-headed than the other. It always seems like one person has to be the bigger person, and sometimes the bigger person get tired of being the bigger person. I got time today. I'm call me Betty. I'm gonna be petty today, petty Betty. Right? You got petty Betty and petty Pete going at it, and their guardian, the marriage guardian, is like, oh my god, hey Tom, what? Look, oh my, ain't nothing. They ain't listening. Trying to say something. Well, go rouse the kid, and the kids start going crazy. The guardian angel's trying to get your attention. We get the kids all scrounge, all loud and stuff, coming there, want to ask questions because you can't hear them. Well, send the kids, and then maybe the kids think about the babies coming in there. Nope. They start hollering at everybody, hollering like, oh my gosh, maybe when you get married, you run into all this, right? So Key, somebody got to be able to hear Abba. And what's crazy sometimes, even in the midst of me and my husband's passionate disagreements, sometimes the voice of reason, right? A younger child will come in the room and be like, Y'all are both acting like children, right? Like, so what? What? I'm gonna be a child today. Y'all get it. Y'all been if you married. Okay, let me look. Okay, somebody asked a serious question. Let me pull myself together. Hold on. Somebody said, who asked the question? Oh, Shebrew said, Pam, Sissy Global Purpose has a great question. I want to know the answer also. Go back. What you say, sis? You said the generations of pain caused by physical and emotion abandonment from fathers. Hold on, that didn't seem like a question. Oh, what about the fathers who abandoned their children? Everybody is held like. Hold on, let me go back up a little bit more. Let me just make sure. Only one more question. I'll try. What happens to the fathers of these aborted babies? All right, babe. Love you. They are held responsible. Yeah, everybody is held responsible. It doesn't matter what the other party did. In the father's side, everybody had a part to play in this. Hold on. What about the fathers who abandoned their children? So let me just be clear. When you say, are you talking about the fathers like when they die, like if their children have already died, or just in general, what happens to them? Although a lot of times we don't see it here, like we would like to see them get their tails tore off and be punished by the father for what they did or what they didn't do. A lot of times we don't even really get to see that for real, right? I mean, we see them punished by the government system or whatever. We feel like the father moving too slow. Women gonna lash out and tell you what type of father we think you are, like all of that. And sometimes men really do catch a bad rap. It's a some unaware, some urge it. Yeah, it's just, what about the men who never knew about the pregnancy? Listen though, would not the man still be responsible? He knew he had sex with that woman. He knew, especially if he didn't wear a condom, right? A lot of men think they pull out game is strong, but what about I'm gonna watch my terms here. But what about the the small amount that may have come out before the actual explosion, right? Some call it pre-ejaculation. I'm gonna just use it in a nice way. But aren't they still responsible even if they didn't know about the pregnancy? You knew you had sex with this woman. There's a possibility it wasn't protected, right? So all of that's the way I look at things. But you knew you had sex with this woman. There was a possibility. It wasn't protected. You know you're not sterile. Maybe you don't know if you can or can't have babies. Well, it never happened before. I thought I was sterile. Well, let's get a paternity test. You are 99, because they ain't gonna say 100%, right? It's you are 99.9, even if 95, right? Anywhere in the night. Listen, if it's over 50%, you the pappy. Use the pappy, right? That's my thoughts, right? A lot of I just think about things from because of my life experiences. I mean, these are good questions, but I would still think the men should still be held responsible. I mean, that's not from a woman because men should or whatever, but I'm using your good common sense when you stand before the creator, right? Well, why are you out here um just giving giving yourself to every woman, right? And you know what, it could even been a long standing relationship and it just happened to end, right? And the last time you came together, and you just decided you grew apart, you parted ways or whatever. And it because you have a lot of those things too. It's a lot of different ways this could happen, not just people on purpose. It could have been like a relationship and you just kind of whatever grew apart, however you want to term it, right? And the woman was pregnant and she felt some type of way, or she just decided not to tell you already apart, or maybe she wanted to tell you, but maybe you had already found somebody new and you got married and she didn't want to disrupt your family or whatever. And she just decided to keep it to herself and she never told you. Like, you got all these different things. But I still would think, listen, if the man has any kind of, and sometimes they don't think about it, right? But those who like it, if your spirit is in line with the Father, even if you didn't know, you should know at some point in time. Like, you should be having some kind of dreams. The Father should be trying to get your attention. Hey, son, there is some unfinished business. You might want to go look at this, because I've seen it happen that way. So anything other than that, it seems like excuses that people try to make to me, right? Because I've seen it. Well, how come the woman never told them, but they had a feeling that they needed to get back in touch for whatever reason, they followed that through, right? And they found out, oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me I had a child? That's just the way I look at things. What about parents who abandon their children? Everybody is held responsible. That's just me and what I believe, where I'm at based on all the information that I have and I know. Okay, hold on. Yeah, most people are not that high spiritually set apart. And I agree. I agree. But we really should be, right? We really should be, because our parents were supposed to teach us, right? I mean, everybody shares the blame in this up to a certain point, right? And the kids could be grown and out of your house by the time you realize, oh my gosh, but you can't go back in time and make the children small again to correct your wrongs. All you can do now is just apologize. I'm sorry, I didn't know. And you just apologize, repent, whatever, and just move on from there. Fix, salvage what can be at this time. That's just how I look at it. Okay, hold on. The seventh era of faith is could not answer this question. What question? Hold on. Did I miss one? Um, Most people not that high spiritually. Things set apart. Many times we're confused about that topic. And here comes Oahspe that sings gospel of Miss Susan B. Martinez to make it make sense. Right? Okay. Yeah. Hold on. The screen just jumped. Hold on. Key, Petty LaBelle and Petty Pendergrass. That's funny. Okay, hold on. Yeah, I mean, so let's see. Okay, let's raise that question of men part and abortion to Selah Cosma. I'm for that. Ask away. I'll be I'll be listening out. Yeah, Tabitha said, let's raise that question of men, that men part and abortion to Selah Cosma Cal or Oahspe College University platform. Um, yeah, so children are alive but abandoned. Somebody is responsible, right? Somebody dropped the ball on their end. Like all this comes out of people being irresponsible and not developing, not looking out for others, only worrying about themselves, right? Abortion is a selfish act. Leaving the fathers leaving the children is a selfish act, right? We know there are instances where the fathers didn't, like we just talked about, all of these things. And if the fathers didn't know, the mothers knew you carried the baby. Why did you even try to get in touch? Why didn't know who the baby was? Now we got to deal with the issue that you a whore too. Everybody's being irresponsible, right? Look, yeah, because a lot of when they get to heaven and be like, who's your mammy? I'm the pappy. Need a test. Let's talk to the creator. You the pappy, right? Look, it's yeah. It's really, when it comes down to when we get to the root of everything, it's a bunch of selfishness and people looking out for self, right? Okay. I know, Ema. What verses we on again? Look, let's finish this because this is only 19 verses in chapter 8, which is the end of this book. And we got this one more book, the book of Aranathan, and we are completely done with Oahspe the first time. Look at how life began on earth through Oahspe. There is no such thing as born out of wedlock. Well, what if the man knows spending love, leisure? I hope I said the right. Shalom. What if the man knows and intentionally abandoned his children? Like that question answers itself, right? And intentionally, like you're responsible. You're you're walking away from responsibility. You're intentionally choosing to be selfish, right? And they're held accountable. How the father works with them, deals with them, whether they grow up sometime in life down the road or whether they go to the grave still like that, they're going to have to deal with that even when they are born into the spiritual realm. Like they still don't get away from it. They still going to have to deal with it because one day, if there aren't already children, they're waiting for him. Those, as they get older and they pass, he's going to be there until they get there. And he's going to have to face up to that. Now, hopefully by that time he hadn't been stuck. He could possibly been growing, right? Matter of fact, if I understand this correctly, if he dies first and the children are still on the earth, he's still responsible. Men and women, they're still there's in here where it tells you that the parents are still responsible for their children even after they go to the grave, right? So a lot of times they're still hanging around, and a lot of times they don't know, especially if they haven't developed spiritually. They're trying to date, they hang around the house sitting on your counters and stuff. Like, girl, shut up, you're making the same mistakes I did. Don't do that. Don't talk to them. Go watch your kids, girl. Like they trying to get your attention, but you can't hear them. But they're responsible for you. So in all their might, if they're trying to make amends for what they did, they're doing the best they know how to kind of like get your attention, to help you see things. I don't know, maybe you will say something, or maybe you just come to your wits end and you in the kitchen like, Mom, I don't know where I went wrong. I don't know, you had a moments where you do something and all of a something like a book falls off the bookshelf and nobody was there. Maybe that's mom be like, girl, I've been trying to get your attention. And then that'll snap you like, wait a minute, Mama, was that you? Or you could, instead of saying Mama, you can be like, oh, maybe that's the answer from the Lord, or whatever. You know how things like that happen, but you're still responsible even after you go to the grave, right? And if you don't get that together even before they get there, when they get there, you're going to have to handle it. It's just a lot of stuff we're still learning that I'm understanding a little bit more. Kendrick said, continue to teach your children all that you have learned. I wish I had. Oh, she was talking to Key. I already started reading it now. Continue to teach your children all that you have learned. I wish I had known all of this when my sons were young. I know, right? Okay. If your older children begin now, they're on the right path. All 5 of mine are grown, but I tell them about Oahspe. Yeah. Sheba, you got 5 children? Sis, you so tiny. I didn't know you had 5 kids, sis. And your grands. Okay, let me finish reading it so we can get done. Okay, chapter 8. Again, Jehovah spake through S, saying, the first resurrection in heaven have I made to inspire the first resurrection on earth. The second resurrection in heaven have I made to inspire the second resurrection on earth. The third resurrection in heaven have I made to inspire the third resurrection on earth. Like to like made I them. As said, consider then, if a man on earth strive for riches or power or self in any manner, whence he draweth his inspiration, and determine thou also by this what will be his rank in his birth into the S world. And if a man be a preacher and not a practitioner, doing not the thing he knoweth to be the highest, thou shalt determine what will be his spirit birth. On the other hand, he that liveth to the full, the highest of all he knoweth, by his own strength, producing for others all he can, thou shalt determine his place also. These resurrections are possible either on the earth or in heaven, but there are many so immersed in the earth that only by death and by suffering Hades can they be aroused to strive for a higher light. Now it will be said to thee, such a man hath lived a good and exemplary life, given to the poor, being temperate and respectable before the world. What will be his place in heaven? Answer thou him, O Tay, saying, he that serveth himself goeth to the lowest of bound heavens. He who serveth Jehovah with all his wisdom and strength goeth to the third realm. But only he who serveth betwixt these two goeth to the second lowest of the bound realms. Shall a man deceive Jehovah, saying, I did the best I knew, when he knoweth he did not? Be thou wise in discerning Jehovah in all things, and seeing and judging as he would judge. For there are for there are deceivers in heaven, and to him who would shelter his own deceit, these spirits come by the thousands, but he of the third resurrection escapeth them. And now, touching the prophecy of a nation, weigh thou the people and determine what resurrection they are already in, and the number of each division. Then determine the generation antecedent, and then one, and the one again, and the one again, and the one again antecedent to that, making tablets thereof. They that are heavily laden and dwell in him, they are the type of my Ethereal worlds. Forswear to yourselves, forswear yourselves away from the world. She worshipeth the beast. The cloud of the second resurrection is upon her. Wash your hands and be clean. My host from the most high heavens wait at your doors. And that's what we paused at before we just got off the talking for the last 30 minutes, right? We was talking about if you, hey, where y'all at? You already late, shipmate. Listen, that's what we pause at. Verse 13, page 763. Behold, the spirits of darkness and of lies and deception have knocked, and ye open unto them. And now Tay looked abroad over the nations, and he said, what of the emperor, the queen, the king, and the lords of the land? As said, weigh thou them, O man, they and their peoples under them, and enumerate them according to the tablets, and thou shalt foretell the times that are set for them. As they were built up by the sword, they shall fall by the sword. As they stand by the strength of their standing armies, even by standing armies shall they be cut down. By the sword shall Christ destroy Muhammad and Brahma and Buddha, but he shall come again against Confucius and fall. Then shall Christ destroy himself. For as his followers will have cast him out of Rome, he will have no abiding place on the earth. And all of us here, we didn't already cast him out, right? Our other brethren and sisterin is waking up to the lie and farce of it all. We should only be worshiping the Creator and not the creation of a Creator. Jesus is a creation of the Creator, technically a creation of man, but there was a real person, but who y'all worshiping is a creation of the Creator who created it. By the sword shall Christ destroy Muhammad and Brahma and Buddha, but he shall come against Confucius and fall. Then shall Christ destroy himself. For as his followers will have cast him out of Rome, he will have no abiding place on the earth. Search thou the road of Vishnu and Etal and Ram and Osiris, for all the idols of heaven run the same course, as thou shalt prove in Arachnabagalah, nor is there help for any of them. Jehovah is omnipotent over all, is omnipotent. Jehovah is Jehovah is omnipotent over all. He sendeth all gods and saviors. By his almighty command came they. They are books he bestowed upon the generations of man, but when they are of no more use to man, behold, he taketh them away and giveth instead that which is suited to the progress of the world. Be wise and remember thy Creator all the days of thy life. Be thou one with him, and thou shalt live forever. And that, my beautiful people, is the end of the book of knowledge. This is really, really good. Kevin, shalom, shalom. All right, y'all. This is where we pause at today. I'm going to put my page number 764. Tomorrow, Saturday. This is only 5 short chapters. Each chapter is pretty short. They're averaging about 25 verses. 24, 25 verses. The last chapter, 17 verses. But it's possible we could finish it all tomorrow. And it's possible we may not and go into Sunday. But I don't see us going past Sunday. So I'm thinking we're going to start Oahspe over on Monday. But don't quote me. We'll see. Right? Because this is only it's 2 pages, but it's for 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 pages. It's possible we could read it all tomorrow. And if we do, we're going to start Sunday. But we'll know by the end of the day tomorrow, right? And I'll post tomorrow what day, because I know for certain tomorrow whether we're gonna start our Oahspe over on Sunday or on Monday, right? Monday will be 6:15 a.m. If we start over Sunday, then it'll be Sunday. Well, no, you're right. Listen, I had to think about my math because the weekend times will stay the same, right? Because it's the weekend and I'm not normally working on the weekend, right? So the weekend times will stay 7:30. 7:30. It's only during the week, Monday through Friday, where the time has to adjust. So if it's Monday, it'll be 6:15. If it's Sunday, it'll be 7:30. You're welcome, Shebrew. So, Father, we thank you that your mercy endures forever. And we thank you for the good common sense that flows out of you to all men of all generations, right? But it's incumbent upon us to take that common sense and apply it to our life and not just be a preacher of it, but a practitioner of it, right, y'all? All right, y'all. So it is Friday, October 28th, 2022, day 248 of year 4, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1267. We finished reading in Oahspe, the book of knowledge. We started on page 761 and we ended on page 764, and that was chapters 7 through 8. All right, beautiful people, that is it for today. I love y'all, and I don't really think there's any more questions. Thank you, Tabitha. BC. Shalom, shalom. All right, y'all. I don't think any more questions. We kind of went through everything.
You're sitting on my hand.
I think.
Yeah.
All right.
I took my whole hand out.
I just saw your comment. I got 5 kids, 8 grands. Wow, I only got 3. She said, I got 5 kids, 8 grands. I'm the little old lady in the shoe, but I know what to do. All right, y'all. That's it. I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning. Bella, Shebrew said, hey. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Go ahead, Tootie. Take us out of here.
You know, my arm is 1 o'clock. This time my hand was this tiny.
Yeah, I know, girl.
And I didn't have any boots on.
You didn't have any boots?
Yes.
Oh, but you had to go put your boots on this morning.
Yup. Mommy.
Bye, y'all.